What up guys, it is Justice here. It has been a whole week or about 4 or 5 days since I've uploaded a video, so firstly I do apologise for that. This week has been absolutely hectic with work, probably one of the most challenging weeks I've had. But this weekend I've got some spare time. My aim is to create around probably 3 videos, so then I can actually get one out, then every other day I'll upload one hopefully for the next 3 or 4 days. So look forward to that. Now, a huge update came out at the start of this week, which I've not been able to properly take advantage of yet, and that is the preset loadouts. Now, as my channel is primarily focused around PVM content, I thought it is my responsibility to upload something along this update and along these lines. So I've got some ideas of what I want to upload with regards to this update. The first idea is to have a look at different roles and create presets for those PVM roles at different bosses, and then I'm going to upload a short video of each of those different types of roles and leave it up to you about what role I go through next. This role, as you can see by the title, is on the topic of Mage DPSing at Vorago. Now, I have recently bought, or I've had Tectonic now for a little bit, Tectonic Robe Top, Bottom and Mask, which is the level 90 power armor for Magic, as you can see here. And what I'm going to go through is the different updates first and the logistics of this update, just to give you a few tips, but I'm sure you guys are fully aware of it and have gave it a go now. So this video is going to be focused on what pieces of armor, what pieces of weaponry, and what inventory do you want to have set up on your preset to quickly go into those teams and quickly get to the face for Vorago. So I hope you enjoy this video. Alright guys, so I'm in my bank now. I've got my worn equipment tab open, which I think is an absolutely awesome feature to the bank now, because you can literally just remove your items directly to the bank, or you can remove them directly to your inventory. Now essentially this is just your worn equipment panel, but it's been inbuilt and embedded into the bank itself, so it'll tell you all of your damage per weapon. It'll tell you your critical damage output, your hit chance, however that will soon be changing to damage reduction. In terms of your shields, I'm not sure whether hit chance is going to be staying because it didn't really clarify that when I did the beta review. But I've not been on the review since. I may be going back on there to make another video on the EOC changes, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so if I click on the open preset setup menu here, and I open that up, and as you can see I've already got a Herbalore set up, which when you look at Darden's video or any other people, or if you just figure it out yourself essentially, Herbalore now has been made a lot easier. So anyone who's just got 200 mil Herbalore, or you know, just made like thousands of overloads, good fight to them. But if we go to Vorago here and Herbalore, I've saved the Mage DPS setup, or the DPS setup, under Vorago here. However, I've made a few little alterations since I've just recently got the Dragon Rider Amulet, which is essentially better than a Fury, and essentially even better than an Arcane Stream now when using magic, and I'll go into reasons why that is. Many of you may be aware, but some of you may not. So this amulet is received from the one-of-a-kind Grandmaster quest, where you need to do World Wakes, A Tale of Two Cats, which by the way was a hilarious quest to do with a friend of mine, and then a few other little bits and bobs as well. But let's get straight into the preset, shall we? Alright, so that's my current backpack and my current worn equipment. Now in order to overlay or save and embed this under the Vorago tab preset, I just click save there, and it'll essentially choose or allow me to choose whether I want to save the backpack as well as the worn equipment, or just one or the other. But for me, I do want to choose all of them, so I just confirm that save, yes, and it'll confirm under Vorago. Now if I don't have this stuff equipped, all I have to do is press load and it'll automatically load it out. Also, if I click this and select quick preset 1, when I go back to my bank here and I just click preset 1, it will actually automatically load out the Vorago Mage DPS setup. So you can have all of these different setups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can have 2 of them at any one time on preset 1 and preset 2. So you can obviously alter that depending on what you're doing. If you're base tanking one day, you can just put maybe a base tank tab here and put preset 1. So there are a couple of bugs with the preset loadout, which I don't think have been fixed yet. So if you create a loadout with a brand new item and then you go and use that item, next time you go and get that preset loadout, it doesn't recognize the item because it's degraded. So yeah, that kind of sucks, to be honest. I'll go through each of the items and why I've got it in this setup. And if you guys follow this guide, follow this method, then you'll automatically be able to have a really good, decent Mage DPS setup consistently every time you go Vorago. Now, I've really maxed out in the gear in terms of what I'm using, and the reason for that is because I really want to show you guys how to, what you need basically if you want to really max out DPS at Vorago. So I've got different auras, different scrimshaws, and obviously I've got the maximum magic weaponry, level 90 tier, accuracy 2458, seismic 1 and seismic singularity. Alright, so let's get the boring stuff out of the way and we'll get into the exciting stuff in terms of the worn equipment later. So as you can see in my backpack, I have an arcane spirit shield. Now I definitely start off with the shield by wearing it in order to have that higher LP. So when you take that damage, that first hit of damage when you go into Vorago, then you've got the shield on, you're not taking, your health isn't going down as low basically. And you've also got that shield to quickly switch down. There's no cooldown now as well when you switch between shield and weapons. So you can quickly hit on resonance if you need to, if you get close to a magic ball, especially with the boulders rotation. Some of the magic balls can get into your team, and especially if you're doing hard mode this week with Vorago, then it can also affect it. So having a shield there to do a quick switch and a heal is very handy. You need around 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 super restore potions to last 2 kills at Vorago approximately. You want 2 adrenaline pots when you're mage DPSing. The reason for that is because if you're mage DPSing correctly, and I will make a tips and tricks guide on this eventually, then you will be drinking an adrenaline flask almost every time you can. So after every single time it cools down, you'll drink another one because you'll be timing it correctly. So if you're timing it correctly, you should be using about 1.5 to 2 flasks. 2 phoenix necklaces. The reason for that is because at the start of the kill, I'd usually put a phoenix necklace on just to save me having to eat food, and then I can build up my adrenaline straight away to use sunshine. I've got my rock tails in here, and I've got 2 yak pouches on my preset. The reason for that is because once I've used the preset, I'll just hit one of my yak pouches, open and summon it, and then start filling it up with rock tails. And then I've got my portent of life. Now that requires 99 divination. And this portent, as it says in the name, brings you back to life upon death, and it has 1 hour cooldown, so essentially you can only use it once per hour. And the reason why I've got it in my inventory is so I can actually have a scrimshaw, but I'll go into that later on. I've got a portent of item protection because I've got tectonic, and as you're aware, this degrades to dust. So having a portent of item protection in your inventory, which requires 92 divination, allows me to save my tectonic and my seismic 1 and orb. And then I only have my Virtus gloves that can degrade. I've got Overload Flask and Renewal Flask. Now, again, if you're doing fast kills within 15 minutes, you should only really be using 3 doses, so you could probably get 2 kills done with just 1 Overload Flask and 1 Renewal. But just in terms of faster banking, after you've completed those 2 kills at Vorago, it's quite handy just to have those already in your inventory ready for the next 2 kills. And then I've got my dust runes. Many Voragoers use dust runes if you're maging. The reason for it is because, and yeah, that's all I know really. Anyone else know why we use dust runes? Because all of these different spells, they actually deal the same damage, and because Vorago doesn't have any weakness, then it really doesn't really matter what spell you use. It's just personal preference. I use earth spells, earth surge anyway, because I have a little funny feeling that potentially deals more damage. It's probably just a superstition, that's the word. So that's my backpack. Really gone in depth there for you guys, maybe too much, but let me know what you think to this video. It's a new type style of commentary. I'm going to go into my equipment war now and really go into depth of why I've got each item. Right. So I've recently bought the Divine Gaze. As you can see here, it's pretty awesome. I love the look, and the white gaze does go with everything, but that's going on to other things. So I've got my Tectonic Mask, my top and row bottom. Now, if you purchase Seismic 1 and Orb, if you've got that much money and you can invest in the best weaponry in the game in terms of magic, then I strongly recommend to buy Tectonic, because it's almost defeating the main fundamental reason why you've gone and bought those seismic. You've bought the seismic because you want to deal more damage. So you've spent 1.6 bill on dual seismic. Why not just spend a few extra mil on Tectonic Mask, top and bottom? And that'll help you deal the most damage. If you're using Virtus 1 and Book, it might still be worth getting Tectonic if you wish to do so. However, Virtus 1 and Book doesn't really come in handy anywhere except for really Slayer at the moment. But let me know what you think anyway with that, because at Vorago and Rots, you know, the next one down from that is Ascensions, and then yes, the next one down from that is Virtus. So if you have Virtus, it may be worth getting Tectonic for things like Rots, because you probably still can do that, but you're not really going to be DPSing in Vorago teams with Virtus. So I've got Seismic 1 and Orb. Don't really need to go into that in much depth. Obviously everyone knows that's the best magic weaponry in the game, deals very good damage. Now, I've got the Dragon Rider Amulet. Now, this gives 4% critical in each class, so melee, range, and magic. Now, you may be wondering, why am I not using the Arcane Stream? Well, the Dragon Rider Amulet is 0.2% less critical damage than a Fury, however, it's got 10 prayer bonus. And the main fundamental reason why I'm using it for my magic DPS setup is due to the effect it has on the Fire Breath. It actually increases the Fire Breath attack damage hugely, and that allows you to hit up to 7 to 10k damage with just Fire Breath if you do it correctly. With Fire Breath, you obviously have to be careful. You have to be within MD of the monster you're attacking in order for the damage to actually go onto the monster. Otherwise, you'll just Fire Breath into air and maybe burn your teammate. But as you can see, Virtus Gloves. This isn't a must. You can just get away with having static gloves, for example, but that extra little damage does help a little bit, and if you don't mind after you die, it degrades a little bit, then go and buy Virtus Gloves. However, I use Ragefire Boots because I don't want to have two things degrading, and I do just like the look of Ragefire Boots and the fact that it gives you a bit more defense. Now onto the Ring of Vigor. The Ring of Vigor is a must when DPSing because after using an ultimate ability, it starts your adrenaline from 10% rather than 0%. That's a huge help. I've got the Supreme Runic Accuracy. This is, in my opinion, the best aura you can use when mage DPSing. Let's see why, shall we? If we examine the Supreme Runic Accuracy, this is the 3rd tier aura, I think it is, 3rd or 4th, I think it's 3rd, yeah. And it gives you a 10% greater chance of offensive spells hitting the target. So essentially, it's a fantastic aura to use, especially when DPSing Vorago or Rise of the Six. The Scrimshaw of Elements gives an extra 6.66%, I think that's right, for all elemental damage. So that's if you're using the Earth Surge, Water, Fire, or Air. So it doesn't work with ancient magics, it's just the elemental spells. And that's essentially all of my worn equipment. Gone through in depth there, guys. This is definitely the best gear in terms of magic DPSing. If anyone's got other suggestions, then leave comments down below. I'm always open to comments, and it'll help others out as well. I may have missed something out, or may have not gone into something in as much detail. An update was made where the mage capes now do not disappear upon death, and instead they just drop. And you can get them back essentially after you've died, which is much better. And now if you're mage DPSing at Vorago or Rots or any other boss, it's worth now wearing those mage capes for the extra critical damage. So yeah, I bet you wouldn't ever would have thought seeing me in the wilderness. I'm not much of a people killer myself, to be honest. The graphics are pretty awesome in here now, I've got to admit, in the wilderness, and I hope I know the right way. I've not been here in a long time. But yeah, PKing has never really been my thing. You know, there's always that scope where potentially I might give it a go in the future, you know. There probably is a big part of the game which I've missed out in terms of PvP, because I just haven't really got into it. But for the time being, PvM is definitely my focus on the game. Okay, so I'm going to go into the Sparkling Pool, you pretty little pool. There we go. Jump in there and drown. What god should I choose? Right, guys, so I'm going to ask you a question now, actually. So there's 3 gods I can choose. Guthix, Zamorak, and Saradomin, obviously. And what god do you think I'm going to choose? Write a comment right now in the video. If you got it right, then I'll thumbs up that comment if you got it right. And congratulations, whoever guessed Saradomin. And the reason why I've chose this is purely for the looks, because with my Seismic Wand and Orb, I feel it will go better. The critical damage is actually more than, let's say, a 99 cape, so it's definitely worth wearing one if you've not got a max cape or a comp cape. Alright guys, so I'm going to give you the choice of 2 options for the next preset video. The first option is mage bomb tanking setup, and the second option is a base tanking setup for either mage or melee. So let me know in the comment section which preset would you like to see next. Alright guys, so I'm going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed it and got a lot of insight into a mage DPS pre-setup in order to get into those PvM teams quickly and to max out that DPS at Vorago. Thanks a lot for watching this video, guys. On the left hand side of the screen is my spotlight video of today. On the right hand side is my previous video if you haven't seen it already. Any new viewers, welcome to my channel. The bottom left hand corner, if you click Vorago's face, you will subscribe. I'll see you in my next video, guys. Take care.